The United States appears to be on the brink of a major fiscal crisis and potential government shutdown as lawmakers scramble to pass key legislation. Senate Republicans blocked a bill yesterday that would have kept federal agencies funded through early December and raised the national debt limit. Now Democrats are struggling to come up with a new plan ahead of Friday's shutdown deadline. This all comes as moderates and progressives clash over President Biden's agenda. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wants to vote on his bipartisan infrastructure plan Thursday. But some Democrats are threatening to sink those efforts if their priorities are not addressed in a separate $3.5 trillion budget plan. All right, for more on this, let's bring in Kris Van Cleave. He's joining us now from the Hill. So, Kris, let's start with the Senate. Where does Majority Leader Chuck Schumer go from here in order to prevent a shutdown Friday and a debt default next month, which could we see, I guess, the question would be, could we see lawmakers voting on two separate measures?
Almost assuredly. They tried to do it as one measure last night. There was no Republican support, so there was no way to get the 60 votes you would need to do that. The majority leader, Chuck Schumer, has said there is a plan B. He hasn't said what the plan B is, but he was talking about avoiding a government shutdown on Friday when he talks about plan Bs. Likely, that's going to be a continuing resolution that doesn't have the debt ceiling involved. Now, whether that goes until early December, like the one that failed to pass yesterday, or one that buys a few weeks, that remains unclear. And then the other questions, of course, would it include that disaster relief funding and the $6.3 billion for Afghan refugees? So you may just see that same continuing resolution come up minus the debt ceiling. And we know that that's an option because Senator Schumer changed his vote last night from a yay to a nay at the last minute, which will allow him to bring this back up again later. So that could be his path forward on keeping the government open, and in theory, we'll know that in the next couple of days. The debt ceiling, that's a bigger question. We just received a letter from the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, sent to Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other leaders up here on the Hill, pegging the debt ceiling deadline as October 18th. So you're looking about 3 weeks, not quite 3, well, actually almost exactly 3 weeks. Math is hard on the fly, guys. About 3 weeks to raise the debt ceiling. How are you going to do that? Well, they might have a path to do it through reconciliation, that sort of arcane budget process that they're using to try to do the president's domestic agenda. They might be able to do it that way. Or is there a compromise to be found that might allow them to do just a simple majority vote to pass it? That's all got to play out here, and there's not a lot of time to do it. If they go the reconciliation route, that's a 2 to 3 week process. So there's really not time to waste if October 18th is the actual debt ceiling deadline.
Okay, so speaking of that, the domestic agenda, the infrastructure bill, the budget bill, we know that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi met with her Democratic caucus last night to sort of game this out. She needs the support of all of the Democrats. Do we know what the plan is moving forward?
Well, the Speaker continues to say there will be a vote on Thursday. And whether that is because she believes that progressives will fall in line at the last moment, or she's got a sense that there will be some kind of a compromise, at least in principle and reconciliation between now and then, that's anyone's guess. We continue to hear from key progressives like AOC, for example, who just coming in today, said she's a no vote on Thursday, that there may not be votes. The Speaker can only lose 3 votes, 3 Democratic votes to pass this if it goes purely party line. There's some reporting that Republicans in the House will hold back their yes votes until there are enough Democratic votes to pass on its own and then pile on at the end. That would be the appearance of bipartisanship at the end of the day, even though it doesn't look like Speaker Pelosi can rely on House Republicans to help pass that bill. So there's a lot of we don't know, or best wishes, best case scenario talk still going on up here. One thing that's been proposed would be perhaps shortening the duration of the reconciliation bill from $3.5 trillion over 10 years to maybe to 5, and that could push the price below $2 trillion. And if that were enough to satisfy Manchin and Sinema, and everybody can sort of go on the record with that and have their kumbaya moment by Thursday. Maybe this can pass easily, but unclear where we are in the whip count, in the vote count for infrastructure. But I think Democrats are very aware that there is a narrow window here to pass the president's domestic agenda, and failing on infrastructure could result in failing on reconciliation. So at some point, someone has to blink.
Man, once upon a time, infrastructure was a layup, right? If you're going to get bipartisan support, this is it. Not so much anymore. Kris, thank you so much.
It's hard to get partisan support at this point.
Isn't that the truth? So listen, we're going to continue this conversation. We want to bring in Nancy Cordes. She's at the White House, where President Biden's agenda is on the line as Congress battles it out on Capitol Hill. Nancy, what is President Biden doing to rally Democrats behind his plans? What's his strategy when it comes to pushing key moderate senators like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to unite behind a reasonable price tag for his budget and infrastructure proposals?
Well, Anne-Marie, we know that conversations are taking place, but we're not getting a lot of details about who those conversations are with beyond the periodic notice that we get that the president has spoken to Democratic leaders. In fact, the White House won't even say whether holdouts like Manchin and Sinema have kind of given the president their bottom line, what it is that they could live with. Clearly, White House officials believe that at this point in very delicate negotiations, less information is better than more as they go back and forth with members of their own party. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said yesterday that everyone around here has eaten their Wheaties for this week. They know that this is a critical week. But interestingly, when she was asked what specifically the president was going to be doing to try to lock down some kind of compromise within the Democratic Party, she said, we're evaluating if the president has some space in his schedule to make calls and to bring people down here because we're not that far from the Hill. That was sort of curious, the fact that they're still trying to figure out whether he has space in his schedule. Well, his schedule, at least his public schedule, is pretty wide open today. So the fact that they're still trying to figure out whether he's got the time to try to seal the deal on something that's so critically important to the White House was a little surprising.
So, Nancy, how crucial is this for President Biden's legacy? I know it's only, 10 months into his administration, but we've reported on his approval rating dipping recently over Afghanistan and some immigration issues. How crucial is it for the president to get this win?
These two bills, the bipartisan infrastructure bill and this much larger sort of social infrastructure bill, these are the centerpieces of his platform. When he talks about building back better, which is something he talks about all the time, this is what he's talking about. These two pieces of legislation. So if he can't get them passed, it's really going to sort of leave a big hole in not just his ability to tout his accomplishments, but also for Democrats as they move into a midterm election year. And the reality is the reason that the White House and Democrats on the Hill keep saying, we've got to do this now, we've got to do this now, is that the longer you wait, the more difficult it is to get, say, a centrist Democrat from a swing district or maybe even a red district to get on board with more government spending. They're going to be thinking about their own reelection effort. That may not be popular with some of the independent or Republican voters they need to win in their districts. So you've got to do it now before the end of the year, before we get into a midterm election year.
Yeah, Nancy and Anne-Marie, it just strikes me that, this is just another after effect of COVID. I mean, in years past, in administrations past, a president of the United States, the vice president, would hit the road and they'd bring the message to the American people and they'd get people on the side of whoever was trying to pass a piece of legislation so that they would pressure their lawmakers. I think right now what you have is the president is essentially using the bully pulpit from the briefing room or from wherever he holds those press conferences, and it's just not enough perhaps to get the heat on lawmakers to make the decisions. Sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
Right. Well, the problem is that sometimes they've tried that strategy and it has backfired. You know, there was an incident where the vice president did local news interviews in West Virginia, obviously to try to create more support for this bill. Well, Senator Joe Manchin didn't like that one bit. And he said, hey, why didn't they give me a heads up that they were doing this? So you're absolutely right. That is a trick of the political trade. But it's been difficult for this White House to execute on that strategy because, you know, everyone knows at this point who the holdouts are. There's only a couple of them, and they don't particularly enjoy that pressure. And so the White House has to use a really deft touch here. The other reason that getting these bills passed is so important to this White House is because there's so many other pieces of the president's agenda that appear to be, at least at this point, permanently stalled. You know, discussions over police reform just broke down. It doesn't look like there's any big immigration bill in the offing. Nothing on gun safety. Certainly, you know, while there are many Democrats who'd like to act on voting reform, they don't have the numbers for that either. And so if they can't get this passed, they can't get this over the finish line, what do they turn to next to be able to say in 2022, when they're all out on the campaign trail, you've got to reelect Democrats because look how much we can get done. That's one of the many reasons why these two bills are so crucial to this White House.
All right. Nancy Cordes for us at the White House. As always, Nancy, we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You got it.